Hi there. Yeah, I would like to just announce or say my name is Bryce Brandford. I'm a software developer at Neo Financial here in Calgary. This is my first time ever doing a talk, especially on a big stage like that. So I'd really like to thank DevFest and Google for putting on this awesome weekend. Just last year, I was here watching, and it's pretty crazy to see how big it's gotten and how great all of the other presentations have been. I hope you like mine. My topic of conversation today is DORA metrics, the key to DevOps excellence. I figured I'm a pretty casual guy, so I thought I'd throw in some Dora the Explorer memes in there, because that's the first thing I will always think about when I think about or hear DORA metrics. So to go over what DORA metrics are, they're now 5 main keys. It originally started out being 4, but later on in 2023, they added a 5th metric. I'm going to break down what they are individually in a little bit, but just an overview of what they are. Is they help organizers assess and effectively pretty much monitor their whole DevOps experience to monitor and have improvements throughout it. The way you can kind of think of it is we would have different monitorings, and you would have gauges based on if there were improvements or decreases to each of the 5 metrics. That way you could know if things were improving at the company or if things were sliding or declining. DORA stands for DevOps Research and Assessment. They're key performance indicators, and they were originally designed by the DevOps and Research and Assessment team in 2018. So here, the DevOps, like I said before, the DevOps team was Nicole, Jez, and Jean were the first people in 2018, and they've really founded the DevOps performance team, and were the ones who really pushed DORA metrics into the spotlight. They do have a great book, if anyone's looking to read, about explaining the benefits and the use cases of DORA. In 2018, Google actually acquired the entire team, and to this day continues to progress and invest in DORA metrics. They find it's a really good way to track and do exactly what DORA was built to do, is determine what teams are high performance, all the way down to teams that need the most help, and it really shows what needs to be changed for each team. Why DORA is important. And I listened to a great talk this morning by Ron from GitLab. I don't know if anyone else was in there, but he had a really good metaphor for why DORA is important. And his was to imagine a pizza company that from the time you order a pizza, a customer orders a pizza online or over the phone, to the time it's delivered, you would have 4 different kind of broken up areas in which you'd be able to measure and time the length of each of those. And if you were able to shorten or improve in each of those sections, your overall experience or your metrics would be better overall. So these 4, and now 5, measure performance objectively. One of the main things with measuring successes of individual developers or teams is a lot of the metrics can be either skewed or gamified by people. So if you were specifically looking at lines of code added or deleted for developers, those would easily be, you could have easily delete or revert PRs or do different things to gamify those. So a lot of them are harder to track. But DORA was built on, these are the foundational fields that we should be tracking. They do a great job of linking DevOps practices to business outcomes. I think that's pretty on the pizza scale. It shows that if you broke down each one and reduced the time in each, you would have a better outcome of your customers getting their pizza faster or more efficiently. And this drives continuous improvement. A lot of teams don't want to just stay stagnant. They always are trying to improve, and I think that's a lot of developers on their own want to continuously improve. So why would we not want to continuously improve our entire company and teams itself? Here's the first 4 DORA metrics that were created with the original book and creation. The 4 being deployment frequency, lead time for change. And those 2 are kind of the delivery speed of what your team is delivering. And the delivered quality is time to restore service and change failure rate. So you can kind of see that it's like the original 4 were 2, they were kind of like split in half for the 2 big sections of software development. In 2023, reliability was added as the 5th metric. I think it's a pretty important one for measuring how good your product is. This can either be your API uptime, or if you have a lot of crashes and things like that. I asked my wife what she thought the most reliable car in the world was, and we figured out it was the 2002 Toyota Corolla. So now I'm going to go and break down kind of each of the 5 metrics on their own and kind of give you an idea of what each one is. This is a pretty high over-level view. I only have 15 minutes to kind of go over these, so yeah, I'm just going to dive in. So for deployment frequency, it's how often you would release code to product or to production. And this can go, there's multiple different ways. GitLab had a really nice presentation this morning about they graphed every push to production that their team would have. Why it's important is the faster you are to deploy to production in this specific metric, it would show that you're able to make quick changes to your code base and that you are able to have an efficient pipeline in your entire process. There are 4 different in DORA, the 4 metrics. I just put down the goal for the high-performing teams, but it is broken up into 4 different categories for what I think it's the lowest, and then it goes up to the highest performing teams. And some of them are quite unbelievable that some companies in the world can actually achieve these. The highest performance for deployment frequency is it would be on pretty much on-demand deployments. Anytime you would need to make a change, you would be able to, instead of going through very long processes that could take multiple days. You should be able to, if needed to deploy on a daily frequency. Number 2, the lead time for change. This is really your entire PR, like your pull request lifecycle. So from your very time you open your draft PR to the time it's merged into production, this is where this metric really shines. This is one of my favorite metrics because it really shows you how efficient your team and what your platform is, how efficient it is. The flow goes from even right when you're starting development. The big one for me is code review. I find that to be a very important aspect of the development time. A lot of times you can get caught in review cycles where you need to re-request, and those can sometimes take a very long time. But if you really aim to reduce the code review and the deployment time through CI/CD pipelines, it's really gonna affect your lead time because you'd be able to shorten each one of those into obviously shorter times. And I would find that very enjoyable for being a developer, to be able to really push your code through each steps of development. The high-performance goal for this is to have a lead time of less than a day. So that's pretty insane to think about if you were able to open a pull request and be able to get that merged to production in the exact same day. I find that would be an incredible feat, and that's not just once, but this is the average of your entire team. So I think if you had that would be an amazing feat. Mean time to restore. So the first 2 were kind of targeted at the development cycle. These 2 next ones are kind of on the back end. So of course, something is going to go wrong in software development. It always happens. But it's very important to be able to restore, revert, and fix if any problems do manage to get to production, if there's any sort of data change or anything like that. So you can see on the graph here, this was one taken from our DORA metrics, where we have different timelines of different events that would happen. So if failure happened in our production environment, what day, and how long in the minutes it would be till we restored 100% of our services. It can be very hard because obviously systems nowadays are very complex to understand all of their, to get everything back up and running. But I think this is a very useful metric to keep track of so that you can, if something does go wrong, you know approximately how long you can take to restore service. High-performing teams aims for restoration in less than an hour. So I feel like with a lot of now, pipelines have auto reversals and stuff like that. I actually find this one to be the pretty attainable for most teams to have a rollback procedure within 1 hour on average. So I actually think this one to reach a high-performing goal for your team is pretty reasonable if you have the right steps in place. Change failure rate. So this goes along with, I probably should have put this one first, but this kind of goes along with the failure happening. How often do failures happen? You can really take percentage rates off of the amount of PRs merged or changes to production, and you can take the percentage of your changes and what makes a failure rate. High-performing teams aim for a deal under 15%. That seems quite large to me, being a developer. Even being the high-performing, I think 15% failure rate. It also depends on the size of the failure, if it's different, like a full outage or comparatively to like a minor incident. But 15% for a high-performing team also, to me, that feels pretty high, but that's what DORA metrics have it as. And so this is the 5th metric that was added to the DORA in 2023. They wanted to expand on kind of like the back end, how I was saying, the failure rate and the fixtures. They wanted a reliability rate. So this, like I had mentioned before, could either be API uptime is a very normal one. So most big companies offer a 99.9% uptime on some of their APIs. That's really what this aims to do. And this is very tied in with like the failure rate, where you would take that failure rate and also use the time to restore. And that way you'd be able to calculate your uptime in your APIs or your service or application overall. Really, this one didn't have any, this one's really hard to quantify other than uptime and things like that. So this target is just having a dependable service that you and your customers can rely on to continue working. So I only got a couple more minutes here. I know it's been very quick and very high level, but really the key takeaways for DORA metrics are they're actionable ways and insights into your overall software experience. So this is a way that not only developers, but product and management can see in a valid way how to measure teams against each other and organizations against each other. They balance speed and stability, ensuring both rapid delivery and reliable user experience. I think that's what really brought in the last reliability point, was a lot of them were trying to push for speed and efficiency, but reliability is also obviously a very important part of our job. Yeah, so the focus on iterable improvements. So I know a lot of this, especially in such a short time, is pretty daunting to how to implement all of these. But I think even starting on very simple ones like the first two, where you'd be able to track your overall pipeline, is a great first step and an easy way for people to start getting a directive on how they can improve as a team and overall organization. That's all I have time for today, but if you are interested in any other news, every year Google releases the State of DevOps PDF, and it's a great resource. This year they do have a lot about AI in DORA metrics. If I would have had more time, I could have gotten deeper into that, but I also have my LinkedIn there if you want to connect. Please ask me more questions if you have any, and thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome.
Great. So if you have any questions, this is the question and answer period we have for about 5 minutes. If you want to just make your way down to the microphone here and just make sure to talk close to it. It loves you. Go ahead.
Come on, Non, I know you got a question.
My question was for the change failure percentage rate, because I know, is that based off of incidents or is it based off of like what errors go wrong? So if it's like, it could be front-end error throws in the back end from a wrong input, is that included in the percentage rate, do you know?
Yeah,
or is it more like a high level?
I think the benefit of DORA is it can be really broken down into different sizes that you want. So you could have a very low level overall failure incidents, and say you wanted very catastrophic failures on one, you can have a dashboard where you would have catastrophic failure rate, or you could also on that same one have like system levels, maybe each of your independent microservices, you could have broken down to their individual failure rate percentage as well. So I think it's really, that's what's great about DORA, is it's really flexible for whatever the team needs. So I think, yeah, you could break it down to whatever you wanted.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Hi there.
Hi, thanks for the talk. My question was just sort of how do you correlate these metrics to actually delivering value? Because by example, I can imagine a team having fantastic stats because they're making lots of little changes that maybe don't make a big difference to the actual value delivered to the company, where say another group that has terrible stats, they only deploy once a month, could be revolutionizing the business and opening up whole, say, new value streams. But by the DORA metrics, it might look really bad. So I guess how do you link that or correlate the DORA metrics to delivering value delivery?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's one of the main things about DORA metrics is that they can be used in grouping. So you shouldn't be like relying solely on DORA metrics for 100% of your business cases. You can use it as kind of a tool to see where the teams that are providing the most value can make improvements to increase their cycle times. So it is kind of a broader picture, because almost all metrics can be gamified in some way, whether you wanted to open up one-line PRs and merge a bunch of them to production in a day. So I think really trying to step back and taking a broader look at the data itself and not relying solely on the data is going to be important. So I think that is probably the best way. It is just a tool that needs to be used in the correct way, not fully relied upon for all of your business decisions.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hola. Thanks for the talk about DORA. I think I have a lot of exposure with space framework.
Yeah.
And then in the context of determine a high performance team, like you were saying, how do you see DORA and space framework? Because I know they're all metric frameworks, and I'm not sure if they work together too, or in determine a high performance team. Yeah,
actually, like I was saying, Ron actually had a great speech, presentation this morning on space that I watched, and it was really good. So if you have a time to go check his slides out, I think he made his available on GitLab itself. It's really impressive what the work the GitLab's doing for DORA and space. But they're definitely space. The way I look at it is kind of a continuation on DORA. When DORA kind of has those 5 really rigid fundamentals that they kind of don't really change for what you want to work with, space has a lot more. You're able to like dig into each of the metrics a little more, I find, where you can build on top of the DORA metrics is kind of how I think about it. So if you were wanting, I can't remember them off the top of my head, what the space stands for, but I think if you added on and really already had a strong foundation in DORA, you could expand a lot of those 5 fields into more space metrics to kind of derive those values.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think that's all the time we have. So thank you very much.